Have you ever tried to make any sense out of what's going on between the Democratic Party and Russia? You know, the Democratic Party is basically the Socialist Party. You would think they would love Russia. The Democratic Party voted God out of their party platform. You would think they would love the atheistic communist Russians. But what's going on here? What's going on is most Americans do not have any knowledge about what's been happening in Russia since the regime of Boris Yeltsin. Boris Yeltsin rejected communism and made a profession of his Christian faith. And then when his health began to fail, he handed power over to his chosen successor, Vladimir Putin, who has a degree in free market economics and attends church regularly every Sunday, as opposed to Barack Obama that never attended church one single time while he was president. And he professes to be a Christian. Why does the Democratic Party hate Russia? Because Russia has rejected what the Democratic Party loves: atheistic communism. We need to understand these things. Now, what is the Democratic Party all about? To understand it, you have to understand the communist revolution in Russia. It was financed by an American who was an agent of the Rothschild banking family by the name of Jacob Schiff. He financed the Bolshevik or communist revolution in Russia. Now, Vladimir Putin follows three 19th and 20th century Christian Russian philosophers and tells all of his regional governors to read their works and study their works. One of them taught that communism was a virus that the West infected Russia with. And now Russia has turned away from communism and has turned back to its Christian roots. As a matter of fact, a higher percentage of Russians are now professing Christians than Americans. And that's why the Democratic Party hates Russia. To make things even worse for the Democratic Party, who are basically the party controlled by the international bankers, China is rejecting communism. Now, the international bankers have a monopoly on money creation. They create the currencies of most of the nations of the earth at no expense, out of nothing, loan them to governments, and then the peoples of the nations are taxed to pay interest on that money that the international bankers created out of nothing. Now, if you can create money out of nothing, you can buy the best politicians money can buy, you can own the news media, and you can control the educational system. You can basically control the minds of the people. That's what's wrong with America. It's not so much that we're ignorant. It's that we believe so many things that just aren't true because our minds have been controlled by the international bankers. Why is it that we're not taught in schools that money is created out of nothing, loaned into existence, and then we are taxed to pay the money creators back what they created at no expense? It's because it's a racket that the international bankers want to keep going. They thought communism would give them a total monopoly of all means of production, but communism has failed. So now the international bankers have turned to Islam as a totalitarian, socialistic philosophy to give them absolute dictatorial control of the entire world. That's why we see what we see going on in the world today. Now, Russia a Christian nation, does not favor the spread of international banking or the spread of Islam. As a matter of fact, Russia paid off its debt to the Rothschilds. And in a recent cabinet meeting, Vladimir Putin pounded his fist on the desk and said, "I have thrown the Rothschilds out of Russia and paid off their debt." You know, Russia has one of the smallest debt loads of all nations on earth. The largest debtor nation on earth is the United States. We are in debt bondage to the international bankers, and they want to keep it that way. They hate any nation that can get out of debt to them and throw off their bondage. And that's why they hate Russia. Russia should be America's greatest ally because Russia has an Islamic terrorism problem. And if we unite with Russia, we can defeat ISIS and we can defeat Islamic terrorism. Think about this. Great Britain is an ally of ours, isn't it? Well, who was America's greatest enemy at one time? It was England, wasn't it? It was England, not only in the Revolutionary War, but the War of 1812. In every war the United States has fought, with the exception of perhaps Vietnam, Russia has been America's ally. It was America's ally in the Revolutionary War. It was America's ally in the War of 1812. It was America's ally in World War I and World War II. Why shouldn't Russia be our ally in the fight against Islamic terrorism? Well, the Democratic Party is on the side of Islamic terrorism, and that's why they hate Russia. We need to wake up and see what's going on in the world. Well, that's my opinion.